Hola, ¿qué tal? Aquí Julio Monroy desde Delta Records en Bogotá, Colombia. Hoy tenemos un invitado súper especial que nos va a hablar mucho de la nueva tecnología de Eclipsa. También ha tenido que ver con muchas películas que hemos visto. Y bueno, este live va a estar completamente en inglés, pero recuerden que tenemos subtítulos en español. So here we are with Scott Kramer. Hey Scott, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm glad to be joining you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. It's going to be a great live stream. And we are with David Sikar. Hey, David, how are you?
Hi everyone, welcome to this new episode of Producing with Julio Monroy. Scott, it's a huge honor to have you here. Really looking forward for the conversation and for the people watching. Remember that you can actually leave us questions through the platform on which you are watching, and I will communicate them to both Julio and Scott. I leave you with the conversation.
Thank you, David. Well, Scott, in this live stream, we have only two mandatory questions, and I'm going to ask you the first one because the other questions the people is going to are going to ask you. Okay,
Yeah.
so can you tell us how did you begin in this audio industry?
Yeah, I think I go all the way back to grade school, fourth grade. I was maybe 13 years old, and I my parents gave me their stereo, and I started rewiring it, and I started DJing for parties for friends, and from that moment, getting that stereo when I was 13 years old, it never changed. It was only this career my whole life. I never wanted to do anything else. And I was recording bands in high school. I was doing theater in high school. I couldn't wait to get down to Southern California because I knew I needed to go to New York or Southern California in the U.S. to do audio professionally. And I went to University of Southern California, um, graduated, and before I graduated, I had a job in at a union job at a sound mixing facility in Burbank in LA. And we had another part of that story is going to the Audio Engineering Society convention in 2002, and Euphonics had just come out with the System 5 console. And I thought, if I can ever work on this, it'll be like the greatest thing. And then USC bought two of them for the Steven Spielberg scoring stage, and for the mixing theater that Tom Holman was teaching at, the inventor of THX. And I learned the System 5 there, and that's partly how I got my first job. Is they needed someone who could install the System 5, and so I knew digital consoles. And in 2002, the industry was changing from analog to digital workflows, and so I was this new generation of audio student that was ready to help with that transition. So that was really how I got my first professional job. But I've been doing sound and music for 10 years, back to when I was a little kid.
Well, and do you play instruments?
No, I play guitar very badly. I could never sight read. I was never good at music. And then at USC, I started out in the music department and I couldn't qualify for recording arts. So I failed at music and then found the film school where there were like film was so complex and I didn't need to be able to play music to do it. So so I went straight into the film industry. So many people in film and TV started out in music, and I'm the same.
Oh, really? Wow,
Yeah, yeah,
that's great. So, in about 2002 three, you had your first job, right? But
yeah.
what happened next?
I mean, I did that. I worked at a company called International Recording in Burbank. A few years later, I moved to a studio called Todd Studios. This was founded by Mike Todd, who was married to Elizabeth Taylor back in the 60s and had a lens company. He would make camera lenses and then post production sound. And we had facilities in West LA, Burbank, Hollywood, all around LA. And I was a mix technician, so I would set up for the mixers on a big stage with like we'd have 7 or 10 Pro Tools rigs, a recorder and many players, digital video systems, and usually like a 48 or larger fader System 5 in those facilities. And I was a mix technician for years. And some of the films we did there, we did the Kill Bill films, Quentin Tarantino. I worked on the last season of The Sopranos as a mix technician. So Sopranos was just finishing. And we mixed that on kind of a medium-sized theater in Tadeo Lantana, which was in Santa Monica. I remember, I'll never forget just doing playbacks and transfers for Steven Bochco, who was like the creator of NYPD Blue, and he would fly in on his private jet and we would show him these episodes of a TV show he was doing. And it was like such an interesting experience to meet this legendary showrunner. But we had these, major directors and showrunners all through the building all the time. And I thought it was, the most important thing. And then I didn't start working creatively. I mean, I was a technician all those years. I started working creatively in the next role, which was at Wildfire Studios in West Hollywood. And that's where I started as a supervising sound editor and a re-recording mixer. But then going back to when I was a mix tech, my day job was mix technician, setting up the stages, working usually 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., pretty long days, 5 days a week. But then from my first job and from film school on, I was also working on supervising sound editing and mixing lower budget movies at night or on the weekend. I would borrow the facility on the weekend and get to work there with my friends. And so we had a friend who was a composer, a friend who was a sound effects editor, and I was mixing. And we would all hire each other. We'd hire each other for like no money, barely anything. And we would do these movies. There was a director, a creator named Roger Corman, who was very famous in Hollywood for starting the careers of many people in Hollywood by doing B movies, like very cheesy horror movies. And so you could get a job as a director right out of film school, or in my case, as a sound mixer. And we were doing these very cheesy, cheap movies with like no budget. We were doing them in our free time, but it gave us the skills to practice and to learn how to do it for real. So that around 2007, 2009, when I started doing the creative side, I was already ready because I'd done all these cheesy horror movies. It always starts from doing the unimportant things.
Yeah.
And then you hone the skills and you get to the place where when they call you up for the big time, you're ready for it,
Yeah, well, it's amazing, really interesting projects, and I was checking your web, and we saw Mozart in the Jungle. I remember that TV show, and yeah, a lot of movies that we have seen. David is fan of Immortal, right? Immortals.
Yes.
I like Immortals, yeah. I like that movie a lot. My sister is a huge fan of Twilight.
Yeah, those were all at Wildfire. It was a really cool boutique studio in West Hollywood that was originally a Canon Films, and it changed hands many times over the years. But it was 3 stages. We had a big theater that would seat maybe 100, a medium theater, and then a small little room where I would do TV. I mixed a VH1 TV show in there. And then in the medium stage, we did a lot of like independent films. And then the big stage would be the one where they would be doing, Twilight or Immortals, and we did a lot of Stallone movies. So we did like Expendables 1, 2, and 3. And we would have the stars in for ADR. And there were some really funny stories of having Arnold Schwarzenegger in the studio and Stallone and all of the guys that were in that movie. They were there getting espresso at the coffee stand, and and Arnold would say, "I'll be back," when we would get his coffee ready for him.
Really?
Yeah. He really leaned into the humor of it.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And what about Greenfield? Can you tell us more about it?
Well, so around the story continues to, doing the creative sound services at Wildfire and until from I don't know, maybe 2014. and then worked independently at Technicolor, worked at Warner Brothers. And then in 2017, I got the opportunity to move to Netflix. So I did Netflix for 8 years. And leaving Netflix last year, I formed an independent company called Greenfield Sound, where I'm consulting on the kind of the area beyond mixing and delivering your mix. There's this whole world of distribution and streaming and consumer devices that I began to learn about at Netflix, and so I'm consulting in that area. And one of my first clients is Google, where we're working on Eclipsa audio, and that's part of my consulting work.
Wow, that's great. Yet, and I met you because Eclipse, I remember at the NAM show.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want to know if you could tell us more about Eclipse, because we want to know, like, what is Eclipse, why it matters. And
Yeah, I mean, Eclipsa is an immersive audio format. There's many immersive audio formats. There's Dolby Atmos, there's DTS, there's Fraunhofer MPEG-H, from the same group that invented MP3, decades ago, in Germany. And I think the novelty about Eclipsa is not entirely on the technical side, but the fact that it's an open source project. And so that means you can Google Eclipsa GitHub, and you can download all of the source code for Eclipsa, all of the renderers, all of the devices that programmers have created for the Eclipsa format is all available, freely available to anyone, or any company could download Eclipsa audio renderer, Eclipsa audio framework, and then integrate that into other tools. So this is kind of the beauty of it, is that it's completely open and can be integrated into many things. It's not just like a for-profit project by the companies that created it. And the organization that created it is called the Alliance for Open Media. And they have many members, including Google, Samsung, Netflix, all kinds of companies that you can imagine. I believe Disney's a member of it. I believe THX is a member of it, so the original company that had THX Sound. And there's just many, including there's one called Spatial 9 out of Florida that does AI upmixes of music. So it will take a stereo music track and do an automatic immersive mix of that, and then you can deliver that in Eclipsa audio as well.
that's cool. So you can download it, and you can install it free.
Yeah, all the plugins are free, and then if you're a developer and you're building more of an enterprise version of it, you can do all that for free and integrate it into your tool.
Wow. Yeah, and what is the difference between Eclipsa and Dolby Atmos?
I mean, I would say Eclipsa, the foundation of Eclipsa currently is ambisonics, so it supports ambisonics up to third order, I believe. It supports channel-based mixes, so a stereo mix up to 5.1 to immersive to 7.1.4 to 9.1.6 in a channel-based way. So you could create a bus in your DAW, that is, in your audio workstation, you could create a 5.1 or a 7.1.4 bus and pan to that using the panner within the tool, and then that will go across to on a channel-based bus, virtual bus, over to the Eclipsa renderer, where it will work that way. Part of Eclipsa is an object renderer, such as like the object renderer that MPEG-H has, or DTS, or Dolby Atmos, but that is not released yet, so that's kind of a work in progress. Another thing that's included in Eclipsa and that's released currently is a binaural renderer, so there's a way to do immersive for headphones with Eclipsa, and that's something I can show in the plugin today as well.
Yeah, please, because I think that this is very interesting. But before that, David, it seems we have people who wants to say hi.
Okay.
Yes, we do. We have Iron Ears is telling us, hi everyone, and other day here learning with the process. Iron Ears, thank you a lot for being here with us. We also have Diego Castro desde Bogotá. Hola a todos, fan de Twilight is saying fan of Twilight is saying Diego Castro, who's connecting as well. For the people watching, remember, if you've got any questions about Eclipsa, please share them on the comment section and I will communicate them to both Julio and Scott. I leave you with the conversation once more.
Thank you, David. Well, Scott, yeah, if you can share your screen and tell us, David has a screen, yeah, and
Yeah,
how this works.
let's get
Thanks.
into that. I've got this is an open source title called Solavante. So just so everyone understands, you can Google Netflix open content. I believe it's opencontent.netflixstudios.com. I'm just going to double check that link while it's opencontent.netflix.com. You can download this session, you can download the video, you can download all the audio, and anyone can download this and use it. So in the spirit of Eclipsa being free and open source, I'm using content that's free and open source. And anybody can get it and play with these tracks and play with this mix. So it's very cool if you're curious about film sound to check this out. It's opencontent.netflix.com. This is a mix that was created by Will Files, who is the sound designer for Stranger Things and many other films. And his team created this mix for Netflix while I was there. And we put it on the open content site. But as you can see, it's a pretty complex mix with a bed. There's some music as objects here. This is like score that was recorded on a scoring stage. And then down below, there are hard effects and objects that are all mostly mono effects that are panned around, although I see some stereo pairs down here as well. These are all going through to Dolby Atmos renderer. So if I bring up the renderer, there's so many things in this menu now in Pro Tools, it's changed. These objects are all being rendered there. You can see it's very complicated mix. And then there's ability in I/O setup in Pro Tools to create a custom re-render. And so I'm making a live 714 re-render of all of those objects. So all the objects go into Dolby Atmos renderer in real time, they get rendered to 714. And then at the bottom of the session, I'm picking that up here. That renderer input is happening live, and it's going out to the Eclipsa audio renderer. So there's the live 714 coming in, going out to a fifth order ambisonics bus to Eclipsa renderer. And this is the Eclipsa renderer. So all this thing is doing is receiving the 714 feed and converting it to Eclipsa and I'm monitoring in binaural at the moment. So the 714 feed comes in, goes to Eclipsa. And what we are doing, one thing I didn't set up previously is I need to do the Eclipsa element plugin here and have it in pass-through mode so that this full mix comes through. The element plugin is like a contribution. This is saying, okay, from this track, this aux1 track, we're going to send 714. You could also put it on mono audio tracks and pan them in ambisonics. You can turn on the panning controls over here, and then you get ambisonics 3-knob panners. But in pass-through mode, I'm just taking this 714 and sending it straight across to the renderer. So that when I roll, that 714 gets contributed on this input and it gets rendered out binaural. But you can switch the monitoring here. So if you have headphones in your studio, you can go stereo, you can go binaural, you can go to your full speaker setup. If you have 714 in your studio, you can do that. And all that monitoring is live and can change anytime here. And then the renderer is where you can do mastering. So you can actually create the file. I can export an Eclipsa file. I can marry it to video, so mux it with video and define where that video is. And in this case, I'm doing it Opus, which is the open source existing codec, and doing it at 64 kilobit per channel. So I know that's a lot of technical overview, but I just wanted to show this full session. So we're making a 714 in real time. We're picking it, we're sending it here, and we're sending it across to the Eclipsa renderer here. And then we're listening in binaural. So it's kind of like this added on to the session at the end.
Wow.
How much of that makes sense, Julio?
Yeah, well, I was checking, and how long it takes to a person to learn Eclipsa?
I mean, I think if you just use the element plugins and you turn on the panners and you pan in ambisonics, I really don't think it's really different at all. If you're used to immersive audio from any kind of immersive audio, and if you want to mix in other formats, like you do it this way and you just pick it up at the end. And so all a person really needs to understand for Eclipsa in this situation is to insert this to pick up the feed from here, to insert the renderer, and use a fifth order ambisonics bus to send it across.
Okay.
And then finally, it's all you're doing is exporting as wave, export audio, name the audio. If you're marrying it to video to upload to YouTube, you define where the video is here. Most of these settings are defaults, so I put it in Opus in 64. And then to make the file, it's just bounce mix, like in Pro Tools, like everyone is used to. And you can bounce any bus. And when I hit bounce, it'll bounce Eclipsa in the background. And then it'll put the Eclipsa file where I've defined, and then I can upload it to YouTube. So it took me, I know how to mix in immersive. I've mixed in Atmos for years. It only took me probably like 2 hours to create the Eclipsa file and learn how to do the plugins in the right sequence and all of that. One little detail that was important to remember for YouTube was when I set up the input over here. So to set this what you see here in this lower right-hand quadrant, this input where the mix is coming in, this is what's called a mix presentation. And the important thing that I had to set was I had to use the bass profile. I made a mistake early on, and I did bass enhanced. That's just an extension of the Eclipsa definition of the Eclipsa framework. Bass enhanced is not supported on YouTube, so that was a little technical mistake that I made that I had to learn.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to do the bass profile. But once I set that up, I set up the input, I got the signal flow. I mean, I would say like, except for that one mistake, it just took me a few hours to learn.
Wow. Yeah, I was hearing you. So now we have the ability to export the audio and hear it in immersive in YouTube. How it works?
Yeah, that's the idea. And when I create the Eclipsa file here with the renderer, and it's married to video, I upload it to my YouTube channel. It encodes and I can stream it in, about an hour later. So it's very fast. The way it works with Eclipsa and non-Eclipsa equipment is if the equipment, the endpoints, the consumer devices don't support Eclipsa, people will just hear stereo. In the YouTube backend, in the YouTube encoding platform, it'll take the Eclipsa and make it stereo. And that was what will stream for everyone without Eclipsa equipment. But if you have a 2025 Samsung soundbar, 2025 or 26 Samsung or LG TV, these are devices that are rolling out in the field that support Eclipsa. So then with the soundbar, with the TV supporting Eclipsa, you'll be able to stream and hear it in surround in Eclipsa audio on the device. They're also planning to release Eclipsa supporting Chrome very soon. So the Chrome browser will support it. and pass Eclipsa to the operating system, and then you can go out to your speakers. So for us, this is very cool. If we have professional studios, we almost all have, audio workstations connected to a pro interface. In my case, I have an Avid Matrix back here connected to my speakers, and I have, the full 714 speaker set. Once Chrome supports Eclipsa, I can play YouTube off of Chrome. It'll decode and pass out to my pro interface, and I can monitor it right in my studio. So this is something that I know everybody likes to do that with Atmos, and not necessarily have to have an AVR with, like an Apple TV connected to that, but be able to do it cheaply with just a browser connected to the interface you already have.
Well, so now it's available we can do that, right? Like exporting
all of this.
The audio. I give you an example. We recorded a concert and we mix it in immersive, okay? And we want to upload it to YouTube. So now we can upload it in immersive.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So YouTube today supports Eclipsa audio, full immersive. The only caveat is whether the device supports it to decode. But we have channels with the Eclipsa audio streaming today, and we've played a lot of demo content and decoded it in Eclipsa already.
And talking about that, if you have the audio and you have the video, you have to put them together to upload it to YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Or you have to upload it the stereo and the Eclipsa file. Like when you upload a song to, a TuneCore or something like that, you upload the stereo and the ADM. But in YouTube, how does it work?
Well, that's what the plugin is handling. So the 714 mix comes in to the input into the plugin, and then it renders the 714. It actually renders it channel based as pairs of opus. So it would be what is that? 12 channels. So it would be 6 pairs of stereo opus, but there's metadata that identifies them as 714 in the Eclipsa codec. They're compressed and they're encoded in the file, and that file will be on my desktop when I export it with this workflow that I showed earlier. So I say where I want the file to go, I say what video file to combine it with, and then it'll do the encode. The encode that it creates is only Eclipsa, it's 714, but then when I upload it to YouTube, YouTube will make the stereo downmix. It'll just take the 714 and downmix it to stereo. And that'll be what people hear when they don't have Eclipsa equipment.
Okay. But if I have the stereo mix that I made, I don't know, I made 2 different mixes. Can I upload the 2 different versions, or YouTube is going to make the down mix?
It'll do an automatic downmix, and a custom stereo is very important for mixers. It's very important for film mixers as well. So that's something that I'm working with YouTube to eventually support. Is what we would want is to have an additional input for custom stereo, and then have that set up in the platform. So I want to create my 714 in Eclipsa, and then also have the custom stereo, and maybe even have alternate languages, so other languages of the same mix. And then the YouTube platform should take all of those in and surface them all separately, so that a person can go on YouTube and change from like immersive to stereo to other languages or whatever. And I know this from working at Netflix. Oftentimes the way this is handled is it's dependent on the location. So if the user's in the US, they get English. If the user's somewhere in Latin America, they'll get a Spanish, or they'll get Brazilian Portuguese if they're in Brazil, or they'll get whatever the most common language is in that region. So to have all of this, one thing that Eclipsa supports is many simultaneous mixes together in one audio file. I can set that up with the mix presentation editor here. So I can do a new mix presentation, and that could be a different language. It could be Chinese, and then I could add an element to that, and that will all be defined over here. So there's another mix presentation. Eclipsa can support all these different mixes. And the limitation today is YouTube is what YouTube supports just one and does an automatic mix. But in the future, YouTube will be able to surface all of those, and then you can deliver a very complicated set of mixes for the same video in one file.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking in our YouTube channel, so we can mix the videos that we made with Eclipsa. I think that our next video has to have Eclipsa. We have some questions from the community, right, David?
Yes, we do. We have, first of all, we have Iron Ears telling us, thank you for the information. This is an amazing content. And we have Diego Castro asking, what's the fastest way to break this workflow if I use it like a traditional engineer?
What's the fastest way to break this workflow?
Yeah, if I use it like a traditional engineer.
I don't know that I understand the question. What do you think
Me
that means?
neither. Maybe Diego, if you can clarify on the comments, and we'll read the next one. So from us to the world, what behavior do new users constantly get wrong when they first try this? So what's the common mistake when you start using Eclipsa?
I mean, I think that one of the messages that is important to me is that people understand that Eclipsa is just a format, and you can mix however you want with whatever bus structure you want, and just use Eclipsa as a container format. So if you love Dolby Atmos, you stay in Atmos, and you can upload it to YouTube, and your Atmos mix can play through like an Eclipsa encode on YouTube. If you want to do even easier, just use a panner and pan to a 714 bus and make it a channel-based mix. There's no need for a renderer. You can just make, instead of objects, just pan the various audio in 714 with a 3D panner. Go to a 714 bus. You don't need any renderer, and then that 714 can go straight to Eclipsa. It's important to just mix how you want, how it's comfortable for you, and you can just use it as a container to support it on YouTube. And increasingly, there'll be more devices that can play it back from LG, from Samsung, and from other companies. To get the plugins yourself, anyone listening, to download the plugins, you could just Google Eclipsa audio plugins. There's a website where you can get the plugins. You can get a manual on how to use the plugins and read like tutorials and all of that to get to learn it. You don't need to. You can find step-by-step instructions on there on how to work with it.
That's amazing. For the people watching, the link is on the screen right now. You can find eclipsaapp.com and greenfieldsound.com as well if you want to check out Greenfield Sound as well.
Yeah, I was checking eclipsaapp.com, and there are the plugins, I guess. Yeah. And there's a quick demo.
Fantastic. We have another question. In what scenarios does Eclipsa currently fail or produce worse results in terms of unskilled engineer? That's also from Diego. Diego, I'm not getting you today.
I think in any situation where you're mixing, this isn't specific to Eclipsa, but film for TV, a group of my friends and I and colleagues wrote a paper on dialogue intelligibility, the ability to understand dialogue. And this is a real common problem in film and TV, where the creatives, the director, the writer, the sound team, they know the script so well, they know they know it all, they know all the words. So they don't mix dialogue prominently enough to be understood clearly by the audience. And we all have this experience where we're at home watching TV and we can't hear, and we pick up the remote control and we're riding the volume up and down. My mom, my family, everyone I know has this problem. This isn't just for people with documented hearing problems, but it's a universal problem where since The Sopranos, since that title I worked on 25 years ago, that was kind of the birth of cinematic TV, or cinema coming to the small screen, to premium television. And we've seen this thing where with digital TV, with cinematic mixes on TV, there's so much music and effects, it's competing with the dialogue. So one thing where engineers go wrong often is not having dialogue on top and as big as it should be. It's usually very easy to understand the dialogue in a telenovela or something where the dialogue is really on top and music and effects are kind of minor. But when you get to these kind of cinematic shows, that's where you have big problems with, other content competing. So it's just important to remember that dialogue is king, and the audience must understand the story. And when they can't understand it, they're likely to turn it off and go onto TikTok or something else.
Yeah. I was wondering.
That's amazing.
Are there any? I know that you gave us the link to download and the manuals, everything. But is there any place to learn Eclipsa online, or videos, or you have to do it all by yourself?
No, I think that plugin website and the manuals on there are very useful. There's a community, there's an Eclipsa audio users group on Facebook, where you can actually ask other people that are doing Eclipsa how they did things. I got some advice on there at first. And there's a YouTube. There are different YouTube channels that have Eclipsa content. You can search for Eclipsa content on YouTube and find lots of people that are interested in it, and find people to ask questions of there. But I think the Facebook group is very helpful.
So if someone is like, if that person knows how to mix in Dolby Atmos, it's going to be easier to mix in Eclipsa, right?
I mean, I think I think if someone knows how to mix in immersive, if they have experience with overhead speakers, or even binaural, where you don't have to have the speakers. If you monitor with the Eclipsa plugin in binaural, you get virtual speakers above you in headphones. So in that way, having that experience of mixing in 3D audio in any format means that Eclipsa is not very difficult. It's not a different sound. It's just a container format. And like I said, without needing any renderer or the complications of objects, you can just use a bus that's 714, monitor it in binaural in headphones. So I think anyone with a DAW, anyone with Pro Tools or with headphones can mix in immersive and can mix with Eclipsa if they want to, and just use the buses that are built into Pro Tools.
Yeah. I was thinking about the Pro Tools station that you show us, and it felt so real in my headphones. I told you before the live stream. I was wondering if you can play a little bit more of that for the people who are watching this live stream.
Yeah, and so what you're hearing over Zoom is the binaural feed. So anyone that has headphones, if you can listen in headphones, you'll get that rich binaural soundscape. So you're hearing a virtual 714 mix in your headphones when I play this back. And I'm just going to roll it for everyone. This is a short video, it's like 5 minutes. You see it's all in the head because it's switched to binaural. This is the 714, this is the binaural. And remember that everything here, everything we're doing in this presentation, the video, audio, all these things are free. The plugin is free. You can download this exact mix session on opencontent.netflix.com. You can get the plugin at eclipsaapp.com. And so anyone can set this up at home and play this back and play with the tracks and the panning. And it's a good way to learn it. It's just setting this up.
It's amazing. Sounds very good.
There it is. Yeah, binaural is magical. And another tip with binaural is you can create a binaural mix using any binauralizer. That could be the Dolby binauralizer, this Eclipsa binauralizer. You could use the there was another free one by a company called Dear Reality that was bought by Sennheiser. There is another one by the APL Virtuoso. So all these different binaural tools, you can create it in stereo, use binaural in stereo, upload it to YouTube in a stereo file, and hear a binaural mix with headphones. And so some friends of mine have made content like that. And they just say in a little kind of title on the video, headphones on, wear headphones, because this is for that full immersive binaural experience. Now, binaural isn't broken on speakers, it still works, but for the full immersive experience, you need headphones on.
And do you think that it is important for students to learn about Eclipsa in the schools, their careers, because I teach mix in the university, stereo mix, but I was checking the software and I was thinking that it would be so cool that they learned about this.
Well, I think Eclipsa is free. Anyone can load it up, so that's very helpful for students. I think it's important for every student to learn immersive audio, but without judging what format, whether it's Atmos or Eclipsa or MPEG-H, every country will have immersive audio streaming on TV, even on broadcasts. Like in Brazil, there is Atmos broadcasting, there's MPEG-H broadcasting, Fraunhofer. The North American standard for over-the-air broadcast is Atmos. In Korea, there is some MPEG-H happening as well. Eclipsa will be streaming more and more from YouTube, and who knows what other services would do it at some point. So regardless of what format it is, I think every student needs to learn about immersive audio, and they should be working with whatever formats are convenient and accessible with the tools that the professors are using in schools. But know that once you can mix in immersive, once you're familiar with overhead content, it's really similar regardless of the format. So it's just very important for people to understand that there are not huge differences between different immersive formats. The basic philosophy of more spatial information, sound like the real world, where sound is all around you out in the real world, and your brain is kind of simplifying it, and your brain takes some of the wonder out of it because you're just used to hearing sound from all around you. And that's all we're trying to do with immersive audio, whether it's for music or whether it's for film and TV, is get closer to that experience of the real world, where sound can come from anywhere, and the brain will simplify it and make sense of it. That's really what Dolby Atmos is doing, and that's what all of these formats are doing. So I think Eclipsa is convenient because it's free, it works with YouTube, but once a student learns immersive audio, they're set for all of the formats.
Great, yeah. I was thinking like I think that you have to learn all the things that you can learn in life. if you have to operate Pro Tools, Logic, and all the DAWs, it's going to be better. And I think that in the immersive, mm, if you know how to use Dolby Atmos, Eclipsa, and other things, it's going to be better for the student in the future.
Yeah, there are always those little details, those little workflow problems that you will frustrate you and you'll have to figure out. But learning immersive audio is the foundation. And once you have that solid foundation, all those things are just little details. Once you're comfortable with 714 or 916, you're comfortable with object audio, applying it to different formats is not as difficult. It actually reminds me of, I was always afraid of doing gaming audio. I'm not a gamer, and I wasn't familiar with video games and how audio works there. But I know it's very complicated, and I just kind of assumed I would have to write code to do audio for games. And then I started to work on a project where I downloaded Unity, which is also free. That's the Unity and Unreal Engine are the two main game engines that people use to design games. And within, like, I don't know, an hour and a half of playing with a Unity test project, I had figured out the basics of setting a sound object in a game and the distance from the object, and the sound would get quieter or louder depending on where I was. And so, I think my big message for anyone learning or anyone wanting to expand their horizon and expand what they know in audio is just to download the tools and try it. Whatever it is, don't be afraid, but just do it. And then you realize really quickly, once you've done it once, this wasn't that hard. Another thing I did the other day, there's a code-based audio tool set called FFmpeg, which is open source, which people have been using to convert files from MP3 to WAV, and do batch conversions and do all of this kind of audio work in the command line. And not being a programmer, I was intimidated by these things. But then when I installed it and tried it out and I learned some of the scripts, I realized this isn't very hard. So it's just another example of you can learn these tools and just download them and try them, and then the mystery will be gone and you'll be on your way to, understanding new areas.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, I was checking, and we have more questions, but before that, David has something to say. David.
Yeah, remember that the 18th and 20th of April, the Pan American Audio Educators Conference is going to take place at Mexico City. It's run currently with Soundcheck Expo. So if you're an educator, you might not want to miss this one. It's a space where you can actually talk to brands and other educators about curriculum, changes in technology, and the art of teaching. As well, remember that you're going to be able to find this episode as a podcast on any streaming platform. It's really simple. You just look for Produciendo con Julio Monroy and you'll be able to find this episode and all past episodes as well. On the other hand, we have just released our new Delta store. If you want to check gear and you want to check different products and services, you can actually go to that webpage and you will find audio interfaces, and we are actually adding new merchandising soon, so be really curious about that as well. We have another question. What's a mixing habit you had early in your career that you later realized was wrong?
Oh man, I think a couple things that brings up a couple things for me. One is it's the premise of the question, the idea that there's a right and a wrong. And I think that in art, there are no rules. And in music, there are no rules. And in film and TV, there are no rules. There's only conventions. So there's the things the audience is used to. The audience is used to, if I'm watching a Hollywood film, the guns don't really sound like a gun in real life. They sound like cannons, and they sound enormous, and they're very big. These are kind of filmic conventions that we've been accustomed to because of all the movies we've seen in our life. And so sometimes breaking those rules or breaking those conventions is very interesting artistically to do something new. Sometimes it makes people think, oh, they didn't do this right. But sometimes it's very interesting as a storytelling technique to challenge the audience to do something different. Like a film where all the guns really sound like guns and it's just a crack would be challenging to the audience and kind of scary in a way. Another thing that I did when I was younger or newer in my career that I stopped doing was I would let other sound editors and sound mixers tell me there was a right way. And then I would try to do things the way they said. I would always make sure there was a specific fade on every cut. Every edit from one scene to the next would have to have a 2-frame cut fade. 1 frame on one side of the cut, the other frame on the other side. Or I would be in the computer setting up all the backgrounds and ambiances and sound effects in a certain way because that's what I thought was the right way. And then I had a boss at Wildfire who was kind of known as an artist sound mixer who would work with like Gus Van Sant and these filmmakers who were doing very experimental films. And he would say to me, what are you doing in the computer? Like, what are you doing in the computer? Does it change what's coming out of the speakers? Like, all that matters is the speakers. All that matters is the image on the screen. All that matters is the audience emotions. And doing things in Pro Tools because you think that's the right way is not important, you know? All that matters is the mix. And so I think it was about unlearning the things where sound people said, oh, you have to do it this way. This is the right way. There's no right way. There's just what works and what accomplishes the emotion and accomplishes the storytelling that you're trying to do. So I love it when new musicians come out or new filmmakers come out and they do things their way and then they become very successful because it proves that there's no one that's right or there's no gatekeeper who's telling us what to do and controlling the right way.
Thank you, Scott. And I was wondering, which movie do you recommend to watch? A movie that you think that has a amazing sound.
I am gonna just double check all of the information about it, but there's a film on Netflix called Roma.
Okay.
Directed by Alfonso Cuarón. And I highly recommend this. Alfonso Cuarón, I believe, directed Birdman. He's very interested in a space movie with George Clooney. I forget what it was called. Is very interested in immersive audio from the beginning. And Roma is set in Mexico City, and it's the story of his childhood and growing up in Mexico City. And the idea of this is to break the rules again, like I was just talking about, where he's using immersive audio to have all sounds equal, and the audience has to decide what to listen to. Whereas typically, if you're watching like a Coen Brothers movie, like Big Lebowski, or I'm trying to think of other Coen Brothers movies. If you're watching a typical movie, whether it's very artistic or a big Hollywood movie, there's kind of a focus of the sound. There's the dialogue, and then there's sounds that you're directing the audience to. Alfonso Cuarón broke that rule. And in Mexico City, he wanted people to hear the entire place. Because, you know, many of the audience have never been to Mexico City. They don't know what it was like, and they don't know what it was like in the 60s and 70s when he was growing up. So he wanted them to hear the whole richness of the whole environment and decide what to listen to. This is a very cool movie, and to hear it properly in immersive audio, it will be like totally mind-blowing for anyone who checks it out, because you're overwhelmed by sound. It's waves upon waves of sound everywhere, and you have to decide what to listen to. Amazing work.
Thank you for your advice. We're going to watch it with David, right, David? We like to watch movies.
Definitely.
There's so many other examples of great sound. I would say like Skip Leafsay sound design or Dune 1 and 2, big Warner Brothers movies with great sound, incredible sound designers. Mark Mangini worked on that. The Coen Brothers films, Danny Boyle films. There's a film out of the UK called Sunshine with incredible sound. This is sci-fi. It was like almost no one saw it. It wasn't a huge box office success. Sunshine is the story of people going to the sun to kind of reignite the sun, and they're in a spaceship. And it has incredibly creative sound design. And there's so many examples. Often the best sound is not the exact perfect sound, but it's something that evokes the emotion better, than the actual literal sound. It's another example of making better art by breaking the rules.
It's amazing. I love it. Yeah, we have been here with John Taylor too, and Carlos Solis. Yeah, we talked about like 2 years ago of Berman and Duna. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, John is a friend. Carlos is a friend. I love these people. I love that we have this sound community with so many great folks that are open to sharing their knowledge.
Yeah, they are amazing, good people.
That's right. I have some comments for you. We have Jaso Lois is telling great talk, Scott and Julio. Thank you. We also have Irony saying thank you, Scott, Julio, and Sik. This talk was amazing. We learned about this is incredible, and thank you for the resources as well. We have Hi Delta Hi Scott from Official Trip. Thank you, Official Trip, for being here with us. And well, we are running out of time. We actually told you this was going to be an hour, so I don't know if you have time for a few more questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I can stay on.
Okay, so
thank you.
This is a question. Did working at Netflix make you more technical or more creative, and why? That comes from Discord.
So at Netflix, it was shocking because I stepped away from the creative side and became like an executive. So I wrote the spec for delivering content to Netflix and wrote the loudness rules. I learned Atmos very well and promoted Atmos, making more Atmos for Netflix because I wanted all the sound teams working on Netflix shows to get paid a little more and to create it in immersive audio. And so we set policies around that. So I guess the answer would be I became more technical. Netflix doesn't do any content in-house. Every single show or every film is its own company. It's a little LLC, a corporation that's set up just to make that film or TV show. So that's why Alfonso Cuarón could set up his own company to make Roma, and Netflix just pays them a lump sum to make it, and then they can hire whoever they want. So they're empowered to work with whatever sound team they want, and that's how we get mixers from all over the world contributing Netflix content, is that distributed system of creating everything. So when I was there, it was like setting policies that would work for everyone and setting up pathways to deliver. And some of the things that we did there was we did a spatial audio feature where for the top plan tier, instead of stereo, you get a spatialized stereo where the sound kind of goes beyond the speakers and kind of wraps around. And this is still on Netflix today for people on the top plan tiers. They get this special stereo audio wraps around. We did a really high quality, this would be another technical thing that I worked on with the audio team at Netflix. We did a very high quality streaming so that the 5.1 streams on Netflix are perceptually transparent, which means there's no audible difference between the stream and the uncompressed file, the master file that was delivered to Netflix. So we could say to the director or the mixer, that mix you did, that you delivered to Netflix, we're streaming it at the same quality. We didn't compromise it at all when it goes on the service. And so this is very important for the creative community to say Netflix is not hurting the mix at all or doing like lossy encoding that's, compromising the quality. So that was another feature that we worked on there. And then it was like a lot of diplomacy with sound teams around the world and answering questions. I really enjoyed being the person that people would call when they had a question about delivering to Netflix, or if they had a problem with QC or something, that I could usually figure it out and help them. So I liked being of service to the sound community when I was there.
Well, that's pretty interesting. The QC. And when someone upload their work, so Netflix can check the audio levels, the loops, everything. How does that work? It's a machine checking that.
Yeah, it's all done automatically. There are QC vendors, but more and more it's automatic. And the main rules for delivering a mix to Netflix is it had to be, the peaks could not be more than -2. So true peak would be -2 maximum. And then the average loudness would be -27 LKFS dialogue gated. There are free meters where you can, like loudness meters, where you can check this on your own mixes. There's a meter by Youlean,
Yeah.
Youlean. That's a free loudness meter. And
Hmm.
it has the dialogue gating algorithm. So it is checking what's called the anchor element, which is the dialogue gated level. And this is how loudness has been done in the US for many years. And then Netflix adopted it for the global streaming. And the whole idea of anchor based or dialogue gated loudness is to make sure that the audio is similar when people are watching and they move from a movie to a TV show to whatever. All the levels should be similar. Um, and when you don't use anchor based dialogue gated loudness, you can have a problem like one episode of the show could have a gunfight and big loud sequence, and then the next episode doesn't have that loud sequence, and they're effectively playing at different levels because the dialogue will be lower in the one that has the loud gunfight because the gunfight is turning up the level. So this is what having a dialogue measurement fixes, and that's the standard for Netflix now.
Oh, thank you, Scott. Yeah, I always had that question about the QC. I guess we have like one last question, David, for Scott. And which is the question, David?
Yeah, we have which audio process do you think is overused nowadays? From Discord as well.
What is overused? I don't know what is over. I think that maybe what for film and TV, I would say the cinematic extreme dynamic range is overused. We have the opposite problem of music, where music tends to be too compressed, too much limiting for a lot of mixes for music. And as we know, the more you limit it, the more you like take the life out of it and it doesn't breathe. We have the opposite problem in movies and TV where they have this extreme dynamic range, very quiet whispers and very loud roars, and then it causes the audience to pick up their remote control and ride the volume. So what I always say is that a moderate dynamic range is ideal. Not too hyper compressed, not too much limiting, not too much dynamic range, but somewhere in between is the sweet spot. And so we're overusing dynamic range in film and TV.
Great, thank you. Yeah,
That's true.
I was thinking about that. Huh? Like in the music, everything is so compressed, and in movies is different. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I
Love
mean,
it.
another thing that's overused is all these AI noise reduction plugins. We
Uh
have like
huh.
so advanced noise reduction, and dialogue editors sometimes they think they're being helpful and they overprocess it. And the same old boss who used to ask me what I was doing in the computer and if I could please look at the movie would say, "You're turning my dialogue into Swiss cheese. You're processing it too much." Is like full of holes. Like just leave it, let it be human, let it be the way it is designed to be.
And
Don't put a bunch of processing.
do you think that maybe this comes also from thinking about dialogue like vocals, for example, for a song? Do you think that when someone comes from creating music and then goes to TV, it tends to create this kind of over process on the dialogues or the sound
I
effects?
think it could be. I think it could be. I mean, I've met music mixers who are incredible. I worked on we had Beyonce's team in at Netflix to work on the Homecoming mix for that concert film that's on Netflix, and I saw the main mixer that was on the team do this incredible EQ to make a live microphone sound like a studio vocal. But then other music mixers sometimes will over process and things will go too far. And maybe this is brought sometimes to film, but I think mostly they're different. It's different groups. It's, music people and film and TV people are usually different teams. So it doesn't happen that way. It's just that with digital, with Pro Tools, we can do more than we ever could before. And sometimes we use too much technology. And sometimes it's better to be simple. A lot of the people I met early in my career knew that you shouldn't do too much EQ and compression just because you can. So I think it's very important to think about what tells the story and not think about how many different plugins you can use,
Yeah, that's right. And while you were talking, I was thinking about, for example, when I was studying my students, and I want to ask you something. Can you give an advice to the new audio generations and people who want to work in audio for movies?
Yeah, my advice to everyone in sound and learning sound is to just start doing it. Just like I did when I had my day job as a mix technician. But I was lucky to work in audio, but I wasn't really doing what I wanted. I wasn't doing the creative side. But I did the creative side with my friends at night and on the weekends and when we were not getting paid enough, It's like the only way to do it is to do it and not wait for someone to hire you and not wait to get the job, but find friends and find collaborators to create with and make things yourself and put them on YouTube. I would find films from the internet, from forums, and start doing them. And before you know it, you have credits. You've made records, you've made movies, you've just done it with your friends. And then when the real job comes along that pays, then you look like you are experienced, You have to get experienced. You have to start doing it and not wait for someone to give it to you. Whenever a student is not doing the work, then you know that they are going to have a harder time because you have to just get into it, and then the experience comes, and then the paid and professional gigs come after that.
That's a great advice. Yeah, you have to do it. Thank you, Scott, for taking the time to be with us. It was amazing, truly inspiring, and all the things that you told us for us means a lot. Thank you, my friend.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the invite. I love this community that you've built, and more power to you. I can't wait to see the next one.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, David Sicard, in the controls for all your hard work.
It was my pleasure, Scott. Thank you a lot for being here with us. It was amazing. This was an amazing episode, and thank you so much for your time. I actually have to thank as well someone that's here with me at the controls as well. So Dieguito, thank you. He was co-controlling with me. He's getting used to the interface of the live show. So great job. Thank you so much for your help.
Thank you.
And well, Julio, thank you for creating these amazing spaces as well. And we have some more information about next week as well. So please, Julio, if you can tell us.
Yeah, well, this episode has been amazing. Talking with Scott about Eclipsa, Netflix, and everything. It was pretty good. And next week, we're going to talk with Jorge Urbano from Soundcheck Expo. We're going to talk about the event that is going to be in April. So it's going to be next Wednesday. Okay? So see you next week. Bye-bye.